When Pope Leo XIV began appointing new bishops for the United States, it wasn't just a matter of paperwork. It was a moment that quietly reshaped the Catholic Church in America. Behind each name was a story, a calling. In a church at a turning point, America's first bishops under Pope Leo XIV were chosen not in a vacuum, but in the midst of empty dioceses, shifting demographics, and a faithful still searching for shepherds who could speak to today's challenges. Some were younger, some seasoned, but all were entrusted with something more than leadership. There were signs of renewal. America's Catholic Church is changing fast. Parishes are closing in some cities, but booming in others. Young Catholics are drifting away, while new communities are forming in unexpected places in the South. In immigrant parishes, in small rural towns, it's a church facing both decline and rebirth at the same time. Pope Leo XIV's appointments in 2025 were not random. Each one feels chosen to answer a particular wound or need to bring faith back to places where it's fading, to give voice to communities long overlooked, and to remind the Church of its mission to serve, not just survive. Let's begin with one of the most talked about new bishops, Thomas J. Hennan of Baker, Oregon. Number 1. Bishop Thomas J. Hennan, shepherd of the wide frontier. Imagine serving a diocese that stretches over 65,000 square miles. Mountains, deserts, and tiny towns where the nearest parish can be 100 miles away. That's the Diocese of Baker, Oregon. And that's where Bishop Thomas Hennan now serves. Ordained in Iowa in 2004. Hennan's journey has always been about formation, helping others grow in faith. As Vicar General and Director of Vocations, he spent years mentoring future priests. But what truly defined him was something unexpected: his work with Courage International, a ministry that supports people with same-sex attraction who desire to live faithfully in line with Catholic teaching. At first, he hesitated to take on that mission. He feared it would be misunderstood. But when he finally did, he found himself deeply moved by the honesty and faith of those he served. He said once, "We know what the moral teaching of the Church is. We're not bending that or trying to turn that on its head." That line captures his soul, clear in truth, yet deeply compassionate in presence. His ability to walk with people at the margins without losing fidelity to Church teaching has earned him respect across generations, fluent in English, Spanish, and Italian. Bishop Hennan also brings a global sense of connection. And beyond the church walls, he's an artist at heart, playing the violin and even the Irish tin whistle. He's known for quiet intelligence, patience, and pastoral warmth. Now, as he leads one of America's most rural dioceses with fewer than 40 priests, his mission is clear: to keep faith alive in the farthest corners of the country, to bring the presence of the Church where few others go. Number 2. Archbishop Mark S. Rivetuso, the Southern Reformer from Oregon's mountains. We travel to the deep south to Mobile, Alabama. Here, the Catholic Church has one of its oldest roots in the United States. And now, Pope Leo XIV has placed Archbishop Mark Rivetuso at its helm. Born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri, Rivetuso carries decades of service in both parish life and church law. His background in canon law and his years as judicial vicar shaped him into a bishop who values justice, mercy, and truth in equal measure. But what sets him apart isn't the paperwork of canon law. It's his years in prison ministry. He served as chaplain at the St. Louis County Justice Center, where he spent long hours listening to the forgotten men and women behind bars, some of them abandoned by society there. He didn't just preach about forgiveness. He lived it. His compassion toward inmates and his unwavering stance against the death penalty reflect a faith rooted in the dignity of every human life. As Archbishop of Mobile, he now faces a vast archdiocese where Catholicism is both ancient and small, a mission field full of potential. Many of his parishes are in communities marked by poverty, history, faith that endures despite hardship. His appointment is more than a transfer. It's a statement. A leader who combines strong theology with mercy, intellect with humanity, and administration with genuine care. Pope Leo chose someone who could rebuild trust and bridge old divides. Number 3. Bishop Mark Eckman. Pittsburgh's native son. Few bishops embody the spirit of local faith like Mark Eckman. The new Bishop of Pittsburgh, he's not an outsider. He's a priest who has walked the same streets, served the same parishes, and baptized the same families for almost 40 years. Ordained in 1985. Eckman has lived his entire priestly life in the Diocese of Pittsburgh, a city where Catholic identity is tied to steel, labor, and generations of immigrant families. Over the decades, he's been a parish priest, pastor, and later vicar for clergy personnel, a job that placed him right in the middle of the hardest years for many priests. When churches were closing and clergy numbers were shrinking, he was the one who listened, supported, and helped priests carry their burdens. His empathy and stability became known throughout the diocese. Now, his appointment as bishop feels less like a promotion and more like a family choosing one of its own to lead. Pope Leo's choice here is symbolic. True renewal doesn't always come from outsiders. Sometimes it rises from within, from those who have loved their people all along. Bishop Eckman's leadership signals faith in continuity, humility, and deep roots. In a world obsessed with novelty, his story reminds us that loyalty and presence can be the strongest forms of renewal. Number 4. Bishop Daniel E. Garcia, the homecoming of a shepherd from Pennsylvania. We travel south again to Texas. The Diocese of Austin has seen explosive growth in recent years. Churches overflow, new parishes are being built. The faithful are young, diverse, and passionate, and at the center of this energy stands Bishop Daniel E. Garcia. Newly appointed, or rather reappointed to his home diocese after years leading Monterey, California. For Garcia, this is more than a transfer. It's a homecoming. He began his priesthood in Austin in 1988, serving as pastor, vicar general, and moderator of the Curia. He knows the city, the culture, and the people by heart. What makes Bishop Garcia remarkable is his bilingual soul, English and Spanish flowing naturally through his ministry. As a leader in the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops, he worked to make the liturgy resonate with Hispanic Catholics, who now make up nearly half of Texas's Catholic population. He believes that worship isn't just ritual, it's an encounter. And that language isn't a barrier, but a bridge to faith. Austin is growing fast, both economically and spiritually. But with growth comes a challenge: how to preserve faith in a culture that's increasingly secular. Bishop Garcia's task is to guide a diocese bursting with energy, yet hungry for deeper roots in him. Pope Leo has placed a shepherd who understands both experience and belonging, a bishop who returns home not as a stranger, but as one who never stopped loving the flock. 5. Bishop Pedro Bismer Chow, the counselor and immigrant voice in Newark, New Jersey. Something quietly groundbreaking has happened. The Archdiocese now has its first Nicaraguan-born bishop, Pedro Bismer Chow. His journey is extraordinary. Born in Managua, Nicaragua, he immigrated to the United States, studied psychology and professional counseling, and entered the priesthood later in life. He was ordained at 44, an age when most priests are already seasoned veterans. But that late start gave him something precious: life experience. He's walked the same roads as the people he now serves: immigrants, students, families, struggling to belong in a busy, diverse city. His background in counseling makes him deeply attuned to the emotional wounds people carry. In an era when loneliness and anxiety affect even the faithful, his ministry is one of healing hearts as much as saving souls. Fluent in English, Spanish, and even American Sign Language, Bishop Chow can connect across boundaries that often divide parishes. He's served as campus minister, parish pastor, and director of Newark's Cathedral Basilica of the Sacred Heart, the largest church in New Jersey. His appointment is more than symbolic. It's a recognition that the church in America is changing, becoming younger, more multicultural, and more connected to the immigrant story. Bishop Chow's life shows that holiness isn't about where you start, but how you respond when God calls. Number 6. Bishop Simon Peter Angoret. A bridge from Africa to America. Few appointments carry as much global meaning as that of Bishop Simon Peter Angoret, the new Bishop of Homathobado, Louisiana. Born in Uganda as one of 14 children, his path to leadership is nothing short of remarkable. Before becoming a priest, he studied political science and even earned an MBA in the Netherlands. But God had other plans. He moved to the United States, entered seminary in New Orleans, and was ordained a priest in 2013. His journey bridges continents from the villages of Uganda to the bayous of Louisiana. When Hurricane Ida devastated his diocese in 2021, Father Angoret, then a vicar general, coordinated relief efforts that raised millions of dollars for Catholic charities. He didn't wait for instructions. He acted, prayed, and served. Now, as bishop, he brings that same strength and humility to a region still rebuilding. Fluent in multiple languages, English, Swahili, and Spanish, he embodies the universality of the Church, and his appointment marks a milestone. He's the first native African bishop to serve on the U.S. mainland. His story is a reminder that faith has no borders. The Church isn't shrinking, it's expanding its heart. From Africa's faith-filled villages to Louisiana's Cajun parishes, the same gospel breathes life in every culture. Number 7. Bishop Michael Pham. From refugee to shepherd, perhaps the most moving of all is the story of Bishop Michael Pham. Now leading the Diocese of San Diego, he was just 13 when he fled communist Vietnam on a fragile boat with his siblings. For days they drifted on the open sea, uncertain if they would survive. Eventually they reached a refugee camp in Malaysia and later a new home in Minnesota, sponsored by a Catholic family. That journey of fear, loss, and faith shaped his soul forever. Years later, he became a priest in the same city that welcomed him, San Diego. Before entering seminary, he studied aeronautical engineering. But God called him to a different kind of flight, one of the spirit. He served in parishes, in diocesan leadership, and as auxiliary bishop. But what drew national attention was his powerful witness on World Refugee Day. When he stood before the courthouse in San Diego, speaking for migrants and refugees with tears in his eyes, his episcopal symbol, a red boat, reminds everyone of that escape and of the countless others who still search for safety and hope. Now, as bishop, he leads one of the most diverse dioceses in America. Over 1 million Catholics, speaking dozens of languages. For them, his story is living proof that faith can rise from exile, and that the Church's heart beats strongest when it welcomes the stranger, the deeper. Message: a Church renewed. When you look at these 7 bishops together, you begin to see a pattern. Pope Leo XIV isn't just appointing leaders, he's drawing a map of renewal. From Oregon's rugged plains to Alabama's historic parishes, from Pittsburgh's Rust Belt roots to Austin's booming faith communities, from New Jersey's immigrant heart to Louisiana's bayous and California's coasts, the Church in America is being quietly transformed. These men aren't celebrities. They're shepherds who have walked with the broken, the poor, the refugee, and the forgotten. They understand that the Church's credibility today doesn't come from power. It comes from compassion, consistency, and courage. Each one represents a different face of modern Catholicism. The pastor rooted in tradition, the scholar who stands for justice, the immigrant who rebuilds faith through love, the bridge between cultures, the man who never stopped believing in hope. Together, they remind us that the Catholic Church in America isn't dying, it's being reborn, quietly, patiently, through men and women who still believe that the gospel can change lives, eh? Turning point under Pope Leo XIV for Pope Leo XIV, these appointments are part of something larger, a reawakening of pastoral courage. He has often said that the Church must be close to the people to listen to accompany, and to bring mercy without losing truth. These bishops reflect exactly that. They're not chosen for prestige, but for their ability to stand in both worlds, the spiritual and the human. They're called to bring Christ to every corner of American life, from city streets to farmlands, from prisons to refugee camps, from universities to rural missions. The Catholic Church in America is no longer just an institution. It's a living mosaic of cultures, languages, and histories. And under Pope Leo's quiet but firm hand, it's rediscovering its missionary heart. So what do these appointments mean for you and me? They remind us that renewal doesn't always make noise. Sometimes it happens in silence, in the daily sacrifices of priests, the faith of families, and the courage of leaders who choose love over fear. Each of these bishops carries a piece of that renewal. And together, they form a mirror of what the Church is becoming: more diverse, more compassionate, and more grounded in the real lives of believers. Pope Leo XIV's vision is clear. The Church must not retreat into comfort. It must step forward guided by shepherds who aren't afraid to walk among their flock. If you've watched till the end, thank you, because stories like these matter. They show that faith is alive, that leadership still carries purpose, that hope still has a name. Which of these bishops' stories touched you the most? Do you see signs of renewal in your own parish or community? Share your thoughts below, and let's keep the conversation going. And before you go, don't forget to like this video. Subscribe for more stories like this, and stay tuned as we continue exploring how faith is being renewed across the world. One heart and one shepherd at a time.